Perfect. Sounds like a plan. Here we go. Hey, hello, everybody. This is Tony Alvarez from Keller Williams Hoover. And once again, we are this week uh, enjoying with the company of my good friend, Andy Gagliano from Galiano Mortgage. Andy, how well are you doing this week?
Tony, I am very well. How about yourself?
Oh, I enjoyed it so much. I had the opportunity this weekend to go to one of the Alabama games with my son. So
Nice.
it's the first game that we go together,
Yeah.
son together, and it's something that my son made a comment and said that this is another adventure for the memories. So it hit me there.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's what it's all about, It's we as fans get awfully wrapped up in, you know, this player didn't play right. This, I can't believe he dropped the ball. There,
Yeah,
why you can't hold on every single play. Come on. But really it's about the game and all that, just that whole environment. And it's not just an Alabama game. It's that other way. It's the way at that other school too. I'm trying to think of their name, but it's
better not.
but it is. That's awesome. I'm glad he enjoyed that, and I'm glad y'all experienced that together. That's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, it's about the experience. Exactly. There's other teams, other events, and things like that that I'm imagining will be that fun too. But it's all
Yeah.
about the experience that we have together. Parking was a challenge, definitely.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to pay $60 for a parking spot just to walk a couple blocks away. So we actually find something a lot cheaper than that, like 7 blocks away. But like he said, it's part of the adventure,
Yeah.
and we enjoy it. So it was great. I just wanted to share that with you and everybody else out there. That is just one of those proud daddy moments.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Andy, I have a question.
Okay.
Let's see if we can put things together because a lot of people is confused. Here in Alabama, we can buy tax deed. I can only speak about Alabama. I don't know the other states. I'm assuming that also that can be possible in other states. But a tax deed, a lot of people ask, what is a tax deed? Well, it's a piece of property, land, whatever you want to call it. Usually it's a piece of land that the state owns it for over, you know, actually the state held a tax certificate on that for over 3 years, and then they sell it, and whoever purchases it gets a tax deed. Uh, some people think that that's it. They own the property and everything is good and no problem. What they don't realize is actually just because you have a tax deed, it doesn't give you a clear title, and you cannot mortgage or insure that property.
Yeah.
Uh, I have a client who's trying to buy a piece of land on a tax deed, and he wanna get a mortgage on it. He didn't want to pay cash for it. So let's talk a little bit about that if we can, because also people think because they're buying if the property had a mortgage before with a tax deed, they're gonna wipe out that mortgage, and the answer is no. And we need to find out who's going to be responsible for that mortgage. So let's start first. Tax deed. Can they mortgage a tax deed?
So the short answer is no. And the long answer is because it is impossible to get clear title to that property. And so without clear title, you're not going to get a mortgage. That's just as simple as it gets. And I'm not going to claim to know what every mortgage company in the country will do, but I will tell you that the ones that I've had this very conversation with, they tell me that that they won't make an exception to that title policy for the fact that it's a tax deed. So yeah, that as good as it sounds, and I know a lot of people want to get into real estate investing, and they purchase classes, they watch videos online, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and they hear people talking about, oh, well, you can buy property when it goes up for auction through the county when the county has not been paid their property taxes. And that is true in some states. And after a period of time and going through certain steps, you can own that property in those states. But in this state, you can get a tax deed, and I'm not the legal expert with this, so I'm not going to pretend to know everything that is allowed for you when you get a tax deed on a property. But what I do know is you cannot get financing for that property.
That is correct. Yeah, there's some steps. There's a point that you need to actually talk to an attorney so you can clear that title, cloud the title, and it's a long process and it's expensive. At least here in Alabama, I spoke with an attorney and he was telling me that he can start from $3,000. So it's a decision that people are going to make. And like you said, a lot of people look videos on TikTok and YouTube and they talk about that. And it's true. You can build some wealth with tax certificates, with tax deed, if you know what you're doing. Talk to experts, the people that has done it before. In my case, I have bought personally a couple tax deed properties, but I use them as a rentals.
Okay.
So I know the benefits I'm getting, and I know the risk. So I'm willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
On that property. Also, with a tax certificate, you can buy a property on a tax certificate, take possession of the property, fix it a little bit. Here in Alabama and Jefferson County, if somebody wants to get that property back, the owner, the legal owner of the property, they need to pay those taxes back. They need to pay you 8% of whatever you pay. And the repairs that you're done to the property, you got to go in front of a judge, and the judge is going to decide if you get everything that you invested to fix the property. Usually, if it's cosmetic, doesn't apply. But if it's to improve the life of the property, the structure, then you can get some of that money back as well. The good thing about it is that if you were able to fix it, make the property livable, and rent it, those rents are yours.
Mm-hmm.
You keep the money. You're making, getting that cash flow every month. So there is pro and cons, but you need to know what you're doing and how to play it. There's a timeline for everything. But the important thing that I wanted people to understand is that a tax deed is not, you're not going to get a mortgage on it. You're not going to get a HELOC on it. You're not going to get a refi on it, because you cannot insure the title. And if the title is not insurable, as far as I know, and like you say, Andy, no mortgage is going to touch it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. On the tax deed properties that you bought, did you do or have done a lien search?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I was lucky there was no liens on the property.
Okay.
And right now I'm doing a transaction. One of my clients is buying a piece of property. He's buying it cash. He found it on Facebook. So, And luckily he made the right choice to call me and ask me for advice. And because the guy wanted to give him a quit claim deed, just meet me at one of the banks that they have a notary, and we notarize the paper. And I say, whoa. Hold your horses. That's not how it works. I explained the process, and he agreed, to let me help him with that. And we find out that it was a tax deed that the guy is selling, which is fine. We can buy it, but we want to insure the title. I told my client, you need to insure this title because you don't know if tomorrow somebody else is going to come over and kick you out of there.
Right.
Simple as that. So we'll find out the two previous owners, who they are. One of them is deceased, so we need to get the death certificate. We cannot go to the county, I believe, but I need to check on that one. I believe only family members of the deceased person can ask for the death certificate. And after 25 years, I think it's public record. And we found the other lady that also owns that property. I contact her, and I'm gonna get to meet her in a couple days so she can sign the quitclaim deed, and we can get a clean title.
Nice.
And it's gonna be insurable. So
yeah,
and
that'd be great.
Oh, that would be fantastic. It's working out right now. The only bump we have is trying to get the death certificate. We contact the person who's selling it, contact the family members of the deceased person, and apparently they do have it. They don't know where, in one of the drawers. We put everything on boxes, but they're willing to looking for it and provide it, and get over with.
Yeah. Excellent. That sounds like a good opportunity. It just leads me to say this. A lot of people want to try to save money when it comes to purchasing real estate, and they want to do things themselves. And, I had an experience with a property several years ago, and this was in a suburb of Birmingham. And my borrower, the person who was buying this piece of property, when we went to, we were almost all the way through the underwriting process. We got title ordered. Title came back, and in those days, we were ordering surveys for every transaction that we were doing.
Wow.
And so we had a survey done because that was one of the conditions for the title. So the surveyor goes out there, surveys off the lot according to the legal description that's on the deed that is in the current owner's name. Surveyor sends a survey to me, and one of the lot lines goes right through the corner of the house.
Ooh.
So I start digging around, and come to find out, not the lady that owned it now, but the lady that owned it prior to, the previous owner, had two lots. Well, actually it was one lot, but it was a large lot, and she wanted to subdivide it and sell off the other half of that land so that somebody could build it. It's just a way for her to make some money. Would you believe that she wrote the legal description for that property without having it surveyed?
What?
Yes. Back in those days, a survey might have cost $150.
Yeah.
But she wrote the legal description. She did a darn good job, except she cut off one of the corners of her house. And so there was a lot to getting it fixed. We did get it fixed. The person who owned the property at that point in time was able to sell it to my buyer, and everything's, happy ending. But that was a process, and it's something that could very easily have been avoided 15 years prior if the lady just would have spent $150 on a survey.
Yeah, I think that's very common that people cut corners when it comes to things like that, especially when they don't think of the future, or they really don't care what's going to happen to the piece of property, of the piece of land. I have a client who bought a piece of land cash. Apparently the family owned the whole 10 acres over there, and they subdivided, and everybody got their own piece, and why not? And the legal description, showed her the lot that my client bought, leaving him without a driveway and almost like a quarter of the property. We went to the county, we went to the assessor, and we did the research and everything. But the map and everything shows, the right size of the property and everything. It just was the description. And he had to, get an attorney, get a new survey, because the survey guy went over there and he told him, well, the description is right, and this is what you owe, and the rest of the part, I don't know. So he wasn't really very helpful. per
Yeah.
se. We have to do, actually, I didn't have to do it, but that's one of the services that you get from me. I get with him and did all the research, asked all the questions, and make sure, he was a peace of mind for him. But also, that was a lesson that I told him that next time, because he refused to do a survey. And I'm like, land, when you buy a piece of land, I don't care if it's more than an acre, do a survey. Just to be sure what are you buying.
Yeah.
Because it's incredible how people, especially in the old good days.
Yeah. It's well worth the money. And, surveys are much more expensive today than they were back then, that, from when I was telling this story, when this story happened, but they're still worth it. I think you may be safe in not getting a survey. You may be safe in not getting a survey if you buy in one of these tract subdivisions and you buy new construction. There's no fences up around, on any of the lots around you. I think you'd be safe to not get a survey in that case. But they're worth the money. Surveys keep neighbors friendly.
Yeah, definitely. And families together.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Now that we're talking about that in quit claims, I keep telling people, they keep asking me, they want to buy a piece of property, they sell on Facebook because it's cheap, and why not? And they only get a quit claim deed. All right. And they buy it with a quit claim deed, and why not? How that can affect if they, on the long run, a couple years down the road, or a few months down the road, whatever the case, they decide they want to refi and cash out some money out of that property that they own with a quit claim deed. Is that possible?
It is. Yes. Yeah. So the mortgage companies will insure a quit claim deed. And so that transaction is doable.
Okay, perfect. It's still, amazed me that people thinking that they're saving some money, but in this business, it's just, I can, like President Reagan used to say, trust but verify.
Right.
So I
Right.
always, now it's worth it, pay the attorney fees. And it's worth it, pay for them to do the search. If there's any liens, any more owners of the property, what's going on. It is worth it just for the peace of mind and to save some money down the road, because I promise you, in a couple of years, somebody shows up, it's going to be a lot of money to clear all that mess.
Yeah. Yeah. And these people that you involve in a transaction, they are called professionals for a reason. They know their business. They know what they're doing. And their job is to protect you, the buyer, or you, the seller, and keep you from getting into a mess. And, the vast majority of them have insurance that would protect you, the buyer, or you, the seller, in case they did miss something, because we're all human. We're going to make mistakes, but there's something to be said for being an expert in your field, knowing what you're doing. And, it costs more today to buy a home than it ever has, not just because of sales prices, not because of interest rates, but because of the closing cost as well. And, we just don't need to cut corners and, try to save $450 or $600 survey cost, because it may come back and bite us in the rear end at a later time. And so, yeah.
I definitely agree with you on that. It's just, let's do it the right way and everything. And, it's just invest the money that we need to invest, as long.
Yeah.
I'm going to be sure that when I'm sleeping at night, nobody's going to go and knock down the door and say, hey, this is my property. Get out of here.
That's right.
All right, Andy, thank you very much. Anything else you would like to add to this?
I don't think so. I think, this is very informative, and I think a lot of people are going to find some value in this. And, if you have questions about tax deeds or the legal part of buying a home, because it seems like so many transactions have a little twist or a turn in them here and there, I just recommend calling a professional, and I would start with calling a professional realtor. And Tony is a great one. And so I would recommend calling Tony to do that. Tony, how can they reach you?
Well, people can call me 205-370-3248. And I'll definitely be more than happy to talk to you guys about all these. There's something that I actually can say I do have experience in it, because I myself has been in that situation. Andy, if they want to get into a house, before they get into a house, they need to get pre-approved and pre-qualified. And you can help them with that. So how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I can be reached at 205-979-4412. I'm at extension 1. And here's the last thing I want to say about this topic. Call Tony, call me. What I will tell you is neither one of us know everything, but I will just about bet you we know somebody who has the answer. So we know where to turn to get the answers to the questions that we don't know that you have, to make sure that you're protected. So feel free to reach out to Tony or myself. Well, I know we'll be glad to help you.
All right. Well, Andy, thank you very much. I'll see you next week. And people, if you all have questions, want to make a comment, just, let us know. We're there. We're going to look at it. And like Andy said, if we don't know the answer, we'll find the experts and the people who will know. So you're going to be a knowledgeable buyer, knowledgeable seller out there. So, you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. So thank you, Andy, and I'll see you next week.
Sounds great. Thank you, Tony. Bye, everybody.